welcome to Share Bright Light. I'm Derek.
Melanie.
And today we're going to be talking about taking a leap of faith as we go skydiving. We're actually in Key West, Florida on our honeymoon. We got married like a little over a week ago, so we're super excited to be able to show you guys some of the story behind that. And Melanie's going to do some of that, so just come with us and we'll see where it goes. That Dunkin' was so good. If anybody knows me, they know I love a good Dunkin' latte, of which they did not have today. But guys, if you're just tuning in, this might be the first time where Melanie's in a video where we're actually talking. If you go back and check out the deadly sins, she's in 4 of them. If you can list it in the comments below, that would be really cool. Would love to see if you've been watching. But today, Melanie's going to talk to us about taking a leap of faith, step of faith, and kind of where that started. And we're going to just go skydiving later, so don't leave.
It's gonna be fun.
Melanie, tell us, when did the Lord start talking to you about taking a leap of faith?
So back in 2019, one thing that I do is I try to pray and really ask God, what's a word that I can stand on for the year? So last year I got Romans 1:5. The part of the verse that stood out to me was obedience that comes through faith, or that is faith. So obedience that is faith. So I really didn't know what that was. I didn't know what God was wanting me to know with that, but I know that I took that, I wrote it down, I put it on my stove because I go to the stove every day, and my calendar, I wrote obedience at the top of every single month. And so I really had to pray and ask God, what does this look like? What does obedience look like that comes through faith? And so he took me on a journey of figuring that out.
So let's head to the skydiving place and you can tell them more about that journey and more coming up. So we finally made it to the skydiving place. You can see there's an airplane right there. There's one all over the place. Melanie's gonna share just a few moments about her first leap of faith experience.
Right. So on August 8th of this year, I was in a tragic car accident with my husband and 2 kids. We hit the back of an 18-wheeler at 70 miles an hour and my husband passed away. And in that process, I broke 13 broken bones. I broke 9 vertebrae, my nose, and 3 ribs. I had to go through the journey of healing and just having my brace and my neck brace and possibly having surgery and walking through what that looked like. So I went through the process of having my brace and then being downgraded to just a neck brace. And I remember that God told me, I was at the altar one day at church, and God told me to take my neck brace off. A lady came and prayed for me, and she said, touch the hem of his garment. So I had to go against what the doctor said and take a leap of faith because I heard God say, take your neck brace off. So I took my neck brace off and did not put it back on until I went to the doctor. And in that process, I had a lot of fear. I had to work through all my grief through this whole process. That grief is one of the hardest things I've ever had to work through in my life. You go through being angry, sad, happy, everything all at the same time. And so I took my neck brace off, and then I had an appointment coming up. It was a few days later, and I went through the fears of, okay, I may actually be hurting myself. God, did you really say this? Did you really tell me to take my neck brace off? And then I went to the doctor, and the Lord told me to put my neck brace on my arm, which sounds absolutely crazy. But I put my neck brace on my arm, and I walked into the doctor's office, and he told me, he said, every time someone asks you why you don't have your neck brace on, you tell them, God told you to take it off. So I told the Lord that sounds absolutely crazy, but I decided to do it anyways. And I had my neck brace on my arm. I walked in to go get an MRI, and the lady, the first thing she said was, why are you not wearing your neck brace? And I said, God told me to take it off. He said he could heal me. He put me together in the beginning. He could put me back together now. So she said, okay, we'll see what the doctor says. So we went, and I had the MRI done, and the Lord, I remember sitting in that tube, and the Lord told me to just pray. So I prayed the whole time I was in there, and I literally could see myself fighting through a crowd, trying to get to the hem of his garment. And I said, God, I know you told me to take this neck brace off. I know that you're not going to fail me. And in that, 15 minutes or 20 minutes I was having that MRI, I felt my neck heat up and I started crying. And it was like at the end of it, I touched the hem of his garment. And then I went and I got to see the neurosurgeon, and he said I was good, that I was completely healed. So that was a step of faith that God asked me to take. And walking through that was very, very hard. But I was still able to see the fruit at the end of it, that he actually told me to take that step and that he was faithful to fulfill it. All right, well, we're about to go skydiving, and I want to tell you more about my journey of taking a leap of faith. So stick around.
All right, so we just went skydiving.
It was amazing.
It was really crazy. Stick around for the end. We're gonna show like the whole clip that we got from them. It's really awesome. This video, we're talking about a leap of faith. And so Melanie's gonna share another huge leap of faith that God called her to.
All right, so about 2 weeks after the accident, the Lord started waking me up in the middle of the night to pray about a courtship, which is absolutely insane because my husband had just died and that just didn't make any sense to me. So in my anger, because I was still grieving, in my anger, I put out 7 fleeces. If you don't know what a fleece is, sometimes you ask the Lord to do something to show you that this is the right path that you're supposed to take. So I was in the process of going through all my grief and really working out like my anger and just not understanding and being angry at the Lord. Most importantly, I was very angry at Jesus. I didn't understand why he did this to me because I thought me and my husband were going to be in the ministry and do things for him, but God has different things planned sometimes. But in my grieving and my anger, I put out 7 very specific fleeces to confirm that this was actually the leap of faith that God was telling me to do in getting pursued in marriage. So shortly after putting my 7 fleeces out, the Lord began to highlight Derek, and Derek was my husband's best friend. So that just didn't seem correct to me. The time frame did not seem correct to me. But Derek felt that he was supposed to pursue my son and to continue to do things with him because my husband wasn't here any longer. And in that process, the Lord started slowly answering my fleeces, and I felt like the Lord told me to fast. And through fasting, I begged God to put up any roadblock possible because Melanie is a people pleaser at heart, and this wouldn't look good to people. It wouldn't look good to people at all. And the Lord kept confirming and he kept answering my fleeces. So there are so many other crazy confirmations that we would love to share with you, but we'll probably have to do that in another video because there are so many. But we are going to head to the beach, and Derek is going to share his part in my leap of faith in marrying me.
We're finally at the beach, and I'm willing to share a little bit of my part in Melanie's having to take a leap of faith and marrying me. So I remember very early on, Spencer and I were best friends. He came into my life at a time which was the most dark for me. I was in a place of an abandonment in a marriage. He was instrumental on having that divorce papers, and it was just a God thing that he was there. And I remember not even looking for anybody. I definitely wanted to be there for his son, wanted him to have some man of God in his life. So intentionally, I set like every 2 weeks to do something with him. In that, I had to communicate with Melanie to do that because she's the mom. I remember talking at the end of September, she and I were talking to Marco Polo a little bit, and I was sitting in the living room and I heard the Lord say, and I quote, "You will be married in 3 months." And I'm sitting there and I'm like, whatever. That's just me. I said that all in my head. I'm like, whatever, that's just me. And my mom sitting on the couch, she said, "I think you'll be married by Christmas." And then she felt the Lord on it. She gets these confirmations from the Holy Spirit. And I was like, what did you just say? I was like, what did you just say? And it was so crazy because the date was 9/24, 3 months. The Lord said, you'll be married in 3 months. That was 12/24, which is Christmas Eve, which was the exact same thing that my mom had said, that you will be married in 3 months. It was like undeniable confirmation. And God had been speaking to me, confirming that, hey, I'm not playing games with you. Basically, God was showing me that he's speaking clearly to me. So that was important. So I had this word, but I didn't really know who it was for necessarily, Melanie. God didn't say, hey, this is her. So shortly after that, maybe like a week later, Jesus told Melanie that she needed to fast talking to me. So for 5 days, we didn't talk at all. I actually fasted food until 5 o'clock each day. My mom and I prayed in tongues for an hour over the situation. I'm like, God, we need a clear no, clear yes. That was a pretty hard week because for me, I had to lay down the right to choose and just say, yes, Lord, whatever you want, right? Even if it is a no for us. And we progressed forward. And I didn't tell Melanie about this until she figured it out on our date, November 21st. But the whole time, it's not like I could make things happen. I knew that, I didn't want to make things happen. So each step, it's like, Jesus, what are you saying? What are you having me do? And he did. Like, for example, when I proposed to her, I felt like I was going to be in disobedience if I did not propose to her. And I remember, in my prayer time one morning, I was just like, Lord, I can't propose without a ring. And he's like, yes, you can. It's like, okay. There were so many crazy things that God did in this. But after she found that date out, I think it became very challenging for her because she has to hear from God herself. Of course, she wanted to know that she knew that this is the Lord's timing, and she just wasn't sure about that for such a long time. But I'll let her share more about her experience in that leap of faith.
That information from Derek, I had all these emotions that came in. I was fearful, and just because it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense that your husband dies and then you get married 3 months later to his best friend. That didn't make any sense to me, and not to mention I was very fearful of what people thought. So I really had to take that to the Lord through prayer time, and as I was praying and really felt like, okay, there's a decision that has to be made, because at this point, all of my fleeces, the 7 fleeces I told you about whenever I was angry, all of them were specific and they were all met within a very short amount of time. So I had to really take that to the Lord because a decision had to be made as to what I was going to do. But I was really fearful of what people thought. And whenever I thought about not marrying Derek, I got literally sick to my stomach because I had had confirmation after confirmation. But whenever I thought about what people were going to say and the fact that, because it didn't make sense to me either, but when I thought about what people were going to say, that was what was impacting my decision. But I had confirmation through pastor sermons, through my personal prayer time, not to mention all my fleeces had been answered. So what did Melanie do? I put another fleece out. And I remember the night before the wedding, God said, you are going to be disobedient. I literally felt so sick whenever I thought about not marrying Derek. So that was where I had to take my step of faith and say, okay, I trust you. I trust that this is what you're telling me. So we went and we got married. I'm really excited that we got married. It felt so good to obey the Lord and know that I was in God's will. And remember that last fleece that I told you guys about? So sometimes faith doesn't make sense. Sometimes it's just walking onto a clear path. But when I said yes and said I do to Derek, my fleece was answered right after, which doesn't make any sense because it was an impossible fleece. Also, another thing that was really cool was God actually sent people to confirm that they got the same word that we were to be married, but I didn't get that until I took that step of faith. There were multiple people that came and said that they saw us being married, and they never told us that before we actually took the step. Derek did not manipulate any of the situation. He didn't push. To be honest, he didn't say a lot. I really had to allow the Lord to speak to me through this. Early on in this, I prayed and I got to wait, and I almost felt like that was for Derek to see how the Lord could move, but he didn't manipulate any of this. This was all the Lord's doing, and just about me taking a step of being obedient to come through faith. So I want you to come with me. You may be in a situation where you need to take a step of faith, and I just want to talk to you more about that. what I really wanted to talk to you guys about is how it's important to have faith when God asks you to have faith. He wants us to walk this walk with Him. He wants our steps to be directed by Him. But if we let people come in the way, or if we let all of our outside circumstances come in the way, you're never going to have the perfect will from the Lord. You might have a permissive will. The Lord might be there, but it's not going to be perfection. It's not going to be exactly what He wants. So I challenge you guys, if you are faced with something that you need to take that step, I pray that you would have the courage and to know that this is what God wants you to do. And of course we don't want to take a step if we don't know if it's what God wants. We cannot let what people think of us decide if we're supposed to follow after the Lord. I know that Mary, when she got pregnant, that was not something that she probably wanted at the time, but she had faith to know that that was what Jesus wanted. There's so many people in the Bible, they took that step. Noah, he made a boat, and that didn't make sense. But we have to follow after whatever it is that God's asking us to do so that we can fulfill the very plan that God has for us. Because this life is fragile, it's short, and God doesn't waste anything. All of this is purposeful, but we have to be obedient to whatever it is He's asking of us. So that verse that God gave me back at the beginning of 2019, it makes so much more sense that this is what it is that He has for us. Obedience, that comes from faith, or obedience that is faith. So now we are going to play the clip from the skydiving that we went on, which was amazing. That was the craziest leap of faith I've ever taken. So I hope you guys enjoy.
What's up, guys?
Hey!
Welcome to Skydive Key West. We're about to throw you out of this airplane.
All right.
Whose idea was this?
With God.
Yeah.
All right. And we're celebrating your honeymoon?
Yes.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank
It's a
you.
beautiful day above the Florida Keys. Let's go see it from above. Have a good time, all right? David's down on the ground. How was it? You had a good time?
Yes.
Congratulations. Thanks for the jump. That was awesome. Good way to start 21.
That's right.
Derek, congratulations.
Yeah.
Back on the ground safe.
Thank God.
How you feeling?
I'm good.
Good.
Yeah, I didn't freak out.
You enjoy your skydiving?
Yeah, I want to do it again.
Yeah, it gets addictive, you know it?
Yeah, it does it. Yeah, I bet.
Thank you for jumping.
Hey,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Skydive Key West, y'all come see us. Yeah.